What's going on YouTube? It's Deej back again with another video, and today we're continuing my updated 2023 mock draft. Today is round 2. If you missed yesterday, that was round 1. Definitely check it out. We had a handful of trades, so if you're a little confused why the order is broken up, definitely check it out so that way you have the context. I'll try to hit on it as we go through today's video, and then tomorrow is going to be the round 3 portion of this mock. But hopefully you all are excited. Hit the like button if you are, subscribe if you're new, looking for more football content, and of course leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who's your favorite team? Did you like the picks? Who goes too high? Who goes too low? And in the meantime, let me showcase the best players still available on our board before we get started with Pittsburgh at 32. Again, we had 3 trades in the first round video, so some change in the order, including Seattle being down one of their second rounders and Detroit being down 2 second rounders to get back into the first round video yesterday. So again, definitely go check it out. But let's waste no more time. Let's jump right into it. And at pick 32, I'm going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers draft Dawand Jones. So this a few times in yesterday's video. I'm trying to mix up the order. And typically I've had Darnell Wright go ahead of Dawand Jones because I personally have Wright ranked higher than Jones. But I want to change it up here. Pittsburgh apparently really likes Dawand Jones. If he makes it to 32, and if they go corner at 17 specifically, it's hard to imagine a world where that's kind of not the pick. Then they flip Chugs Okorafor over to left tackle where he played in college, and maybe that gives you 2 upgrades because you look at Pittsburgh's offensive line, and if you were to rank them, best to worst, all the interior guys are probably 1 through 3, and then the 2 tackles are 4 and 5. So if you get a tackle at one of those, you get an upgrade at one of those tackle spots, and then Chugs plays better than Dan Moore, all of a sudden, that Pittsburgh offensive line is looking at least average. So Jones, obviously, insane arm length, a huge stature, big, strong guy, and maybe going to Pittsburgh because of Pickett's rushing ability. I say this a lot about, if he can go to Chicago, if he can go to Baltimore, if at all possible. That'd be a great environment because you have to rush contain against those quarterbacks. And Pickett, not Lamar Jackson, not Justin Fields, but the guy can move, and he's got some sneaky scoots. So I think maybe that's a spot where, teams will have to rush contain a little bit, and that helps Dawand Jones, fare a little bit better because once he gets his hands on you, you're out of the play. I'm sorry, you're done. You're toast. So if they can slow up those edge rushers enough because of Pickett's rushing ability, then Dawand Jones becomes a really fun add to that offensive line, and Pittsburgh building the Pickett fence here to start round number 2. Then at 33, I was actually a little surprised this guy snuck out of the first round. I think this is the first time I've had a mock all year long where Brzee did not go round 1. I've been through the entire cycle saying this guy deserves to be a first round. He's a first round upside play. Here, he just barely makes it into round 2, and dude, for Houston, you go into your offensive line or tackle offensive line. We'll see where Skoronski fits into the mix if he were to be the pick at 12. Got your future franchise quarterback. Definitely get better on the defensive line too. And Brzee is fantastic value, staring me in the face here at 33. And this is the spot in the draft. I say this all the time. Day 2 is going to be the winner of the draft. Whoever wins day 2 will win the NFL draft because throughout the first round, there's good value here and there, but I feel like in all my second and third round videos, I'm like, you're getting this guy at this spot, unbelievable value. And I kind of feel that way about Brzee going 33 to Houston. You get a high upside guy who's 6'5", 300 plus pounds, really fluid athlete. I think he's going to be pretty good against the run right away. And then a year or 2, let him learn how to be a pass rusher, figure out that moveset. You might have a force to be reckoned with there in the middle of that Houston defensive line. At 34, I'm going to give Arizona Kelee Ringo. Cornerback with, man press potential written all over him. 6'2", 4.36 speed, long arms, and that's when he's best in Georgia. In 2022, they had a DC change and ultimately ran more zone coverage, and I wonder if that's why he kind of took a step back. Not necessarily the most laterally gifted guy. He's much more akin to a Joey Porter than he is like a Christian Gonzalez when it comes to his lateral movement skills. But nevertheless, I think you can take that pill. Like, you're fine. We'll figure out those weaknesses and try to shore up where he is a little bit of a lesser athlete maybe, but straight line fast. And if you're playing man press and Jonathan Gannon coming over, a lot of quarters and a lot of cover one man. I think Kelee Ringo is going to be fantastic in both of those coverages because quarters is basically man just off, and then cover one man, go get your guy at the line of scrimmage and go one-on-one with them. The best man wins. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic fit there in Arizona. Really good value as well at 34. Then we get Indianapolis. They're next up at 35. And I'm going to go Adetomiwa Adebawore. Physical guy coming out of Northwestern, 280 pounds, with like almost 34-inch arms, runs a 4.4 940. Inside-out versatility is kind of interesting here, but I am making with this pick with the thought in mind that he's going to play edge. And I know they did bring in Samson Ebukam, and I like that signing a ton. If you saw my favorite moves for all 32 teams, there was a reason he was on there, right? And I like Ibukam a ton. Kwity Paye has been solid as a run defender, but we haven't really seen him take it a step forward as a pass rusher. So I think a trio of Ibukam, Adebawore, and Paye, that trio should figure out that pass rush production. Plus, you have DeForest Buckner there on the inside. So with the Ibukam signing, maybe 35 edge isn't the hugest value. Maybe this could be Cam Smith, but I've been going corner the last 2 weeks here in the second round for Indianapolis, so want to change it up, go with the upside play, and plus Ibukam 2-year deal. You got now Adebawore for 4 years, and plus maybe Paye doesn't take that step forward. So take another swing of the bat. Let's just ensure that pass rush is not the issue in Indianapolis. Then at 36, I'm going to give Felix Anudike-Uzomah to the LA Rams. How many times have I said this? They had an issue at edge rusher before Leonard Floyd got released, and then they released him. So the problem spot only became more problematic. I think Felix Anudike-Uzomah goes a long way to kind of assuring those concerns. And they're kind of just retooling the defense. They'll trade Allen Robinson, but for the most part, the offense is staying mostly intact. And I'd be curious if they go wide receiver here. Like maybe they add a big body type. Maybe they add another speed guy, take another swing of the bat of a better Tutu Atwell. Interested by that here at 36. But let's just say they go ahead and go get a starting edge rusher because they need 2 of them, and this is a step in the right direction. Shore up that defense, try to get back to where they were when they won the Super Bowl. Anudike-Uzomah, super bendy guy, good get off the line of scrimmage, 6'3", 255, solid size to go with it as well. Next, at 37, I'm going to have Seattle take Mazi Smith, and next week I think I'm going to play around with Mazi either in the first round or going first pick of the second round to Pittsburgh, because it feels like he's kind of trending in that direction, and I want to play with how that affects the rest of the board. What does that mean for Keanu Bent? What does it mean for some of the other D tackles in this class? So that'll be fun, a little tidbit, little preview for next week, but here he falls to 37, and dude, this is your perfect Al Woods replacement in Seattle. You pair him up with Jarran Reed, who's coming back, and Draymond Jones, who is not a good run defender, but a very good pass rusher. Mazi Smith is a perfect complement. Year-over-year progression in regards to being a run defender. We even saw week by week him kind of grow in that field this last year at Michigan, and there's some sneaky pass rush upside. Obviously a twitched-up athlete, which anytime you can say that, that is something that's valuable and deserves to go in the top 50. And anytime you can specifically say that about a defensive lineman, there comes with some additional pass rush upside and intrigue. So I think this is a solid place to grab Mazi Smith based off of, the recent hype, and he's the perfect addition to that defensive line in Seattle. Then we get to the Raiders at 38, and this is where I'm going to go Cam Smith. I think coverage versatile, which is great for that Patrick Graham defense. He's going to mix up zone defenses, but also sprinkle in some man at a pretty even mix. I heard Jim Nagy even it's kind of a hot take where he had Darius Rush. He thinks Darius Rush might be a little bit better than Cam Smith, and Cedric Tillman might be a little bit better than Jalen Hyatt. He's the guy who runs the Senior Bowl, so maybe he's a little biased there, but man, that's a spicy take, and I thought about maybe shocking the world here and kind of going with Darius Rush. But instead, I'll go Cam Smith. Doesn't have the arm length, doesn't have the size, doesn't really even have the speed of Darius Rush, so all that to say, maybe Rush is kind of the better prospect, and maybe we're overlooking him. But Cam Smith's had this preseason hype. Had a little bit more issues this year with penalties, but it was kind of a blip in the radar, in my opinion. That was really just that 1 year of an issue. And again, I think he can play press, he can play off, solid size, 6'1", 190, 4'4", 340. I think that's good enough straight line speed, and great ball skills. And, Darius Rush actually had couple more PBUs, so a little bit more ball production, which is crazy to say because Cam Smith, ball in the air, he finds it, locates it in the blink of an eye, and he gets his hands up to make a play. So that's what I really love about Cam Smith, and I think that type of ball production, you could go down a rabbit hole where it says, okay, well, that should lead to some turnover production, which the Raiders desperately need. So I like this as a fit for that defense and try to add an element that they're kind of sorely missing right now. Next is Carolina, and at 39, I'm actually going to have them trade back. We're going to have Carolina flip places with New England. Now, I know Bill Belichick is more of a trade down versus trade up guy, but look, they have 3 fourth-round picks. So, your pick of the litter. Whichever one you want here. Reviewing my notes, let me just make sure. Pick 107, I think is what I gave them. Yeah, so, and we're not even getting the fourth round, so it doesn't really matter, but let's just say it's 46, 107 to get to 39. And then New England drafts Darnell Wright. Big, strong, physical 4-year starter in college. Left tackle, then flipped over to the right side. Really started to hit his stride. I think protected a little bit in the Josh Heupel offense, but you can't make up 6'6", 315 to 320. And I actually think he's a pretty good mover for that size, and then one of the strongest tackles in this class. This would force you to keep, Trent Brown over at left tackle, which I think he's probably better at right tackle, but, so be it. And then you have Riley Reiff as this, veteran offensive tackle coming off injury, albeit, but $5 million for a veteran experienced multi-year starter as your swing tackle. That is a good extra depth piece to have. So I love the addition of Darnell Wright. And again, it costs you one of your 3 fourth-round picks. Take advantage of that extra capital and move up and make sure that you get Darnell Wright ahead of a team that are ahead of you. And, maybe Green Bay at 46 or 45 is the one to take it. I doubt New Orleans. I've already gone offensive line or actually, no, I didn't go offensive line for Tennessee. So you're getting ahead of 2 potentially tackle-needy teams, Tennessee and maybe Green Bay if you want to lump them in there. So like that fit there in New England. Next up at 40, let's give Keanu Benton to the New Orleans Saints. So once Mozzie Smith comes off the board, I don't think we'll have to wait long before we hear Keanu Benton's name, just because he's the better of the 2D tackles, but they are the 2 main nose tackles of this year's draft class. Keanu Benton, I think, really underrated pass rusher, good hands, explosive out of his stance too. Like, I think people see, D tackle from Wisconsin and they're like, oh, big sluggish guy who eats up blocks. And yes, Benton does do that, but he's got more athleticism than a lot of people want to give him credit for. And again, good with his hands, knows how to set up offensive lineman, knows how to be a good pass rusher, and also has like a solid, repertoire of moves. So again, I think he's kind of a sneaky upside pass rush play while giving this team your David Onyemata replacement, that run stopper there in the middle of the defense. So we go edge, we go interior defensive line. This is not the sexiest draft I put together here for the Saints, but makes that defensive line a true force and a true strength like it has been in years past when New Orleans has been one of the best teams in the NFC. Next, Tennessee at pick 41. I'm going to give him Cody Mauch. A little something different here, and this is kind of my Dylan Radunz insurance. So let's say, hey, yeah, sure, Nicholas Petit-Frere is going to take a step forward in year 2 at right tackle. Andre Dillard's going to be our answer at left tackle. And also Mauch took snaps at center, so maybe he's your Aaron Brewer replacement if Dylan Radunz works out at guard. So, Radunz, solid mover, a little bit of strength concerns is what I've heard through the first little bit of his career in Tennessee. So I can see where Mauch is your replacement there. But also, I could see where teams are like, remember what the Ravens did with Tyler Linderbaum last year? We think Cody Mauch could do that this year, and he took some snaps at the Senior Bowl, looked comfortable at the position. Maybe he's your Aaron Brewer replacement, like I said. So contingency for whether Radunz doesn't work out or Brewer's just not it at 6 foot 275. I can understand where they're looking for someone like that. And Mauch is awesome on the move, and once he gets his sight sets on you as a pulling offensive lineman, duck, because it's going to hurt. Just get out of the way. That is not the tracks you want to be standing on with the train that is Cody Mauch coming your way. Still a work in progress as a pass protector, but I think because of his athleticism and his run blocking upside, he'll be just fine. And that zone blocking scheme, wide zone, has been kind of the calling card for Derrick Henry in that run game. Cody Mauch makes for an awesome addition to that O-line. Next, the Jets for back-to-back picks. I hate repeating picks from previous mocks, especially mocks the week before, but I'm going to do it here because Trenton Simpson, if I had to, I'm going to go ahead and actually refresh the board so y'all can see who's still available at this point. So Antonio Johnson, fantastic safety to add in the mix there in New York. And I know they added Chuck Clark, but more and more teams are implementing 3 safety sets. And Antonio Johnson can play nickel. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a different safety than what they have now. So box safety, nickel, corner hybrid type. And then Trenton Simpson, he's going to be my favorite fit for the Jets just because he gives Robert Saleh that Fred Warner-esque type of play style. Sideline to sideline coverage ability, body of a linebacker, or closer body type to a linebacker. Like Diane Henley is 225. Trenton Simpson 6'2", 235, so there's a little bit more bulk to him. But yeah, great in coverage, great coverage feel. He's got the safety skill set just inside of a, somewhat smaller linebacker, maybe about 10 pounds less than Jack Campbell. And he's got a great feel for coverage as well. Sound tackler, can play the right, so you're getting an all-around linebacker. And it gives New York a chance to give Robert Saleh his Fred Warner of the defense. So I love that fit so much, and it's been a pick that I've made a lot of times throughout this draft cycle. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons on the clock at 44. I'm going to have Emmanuel Forbes returning to the second round. It's been a while since I've had him mocked this high, and it's nothing against him per se, but I just feel like 166 pounds is a tough selling point for teams. But that being said, 17 PBUs, 14 picks, some lucky interceptions in there, but 17 PBUs, those speak for themselves. And I think teams are going to look at all that ball production and be like, this guy's got a nose for the football. I need to create turnovers. Add him into the mix. And for Atlanta, it's like, dude, you pair up this 6'1", long-armed, 3-year starter in Mississippi State, opposite of AJ Terrell, and we signed Jesse Bates this offseason. That secondary is starting to really take shape, and we added an edge rusher at 8. Defense is starting to really come along there in Atlanta, so I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he ends up going somewhere here in the top 45. He's still in my top 10 corners, but this is a crazy good corner class, and 166 pounds is, fixable, right? Like, you can add weight and kind of alleviate those concerns, but he's 0 percentile weight, which you never want to be that type of an anomaly as an athlete. Anyways, moving on to Green Bay here at 45. I'm going to go Luke Musgrave. It would have been great if Darnell Washington or Kincaid fell here, but Musgrave, next best tight end. They definitely could use an upgrade there at that spot. Robert Tonyan, obviously a free agent, and I don't even know the other guys on roster right now. So add another pass catcher in the mix. Give Jordan Love a great ecosystem around him. If there is a year they're going to go pass catcher round 1, it's now, just to stick middle fingers up to Aaron Rodgers. But let's just say they stick to their MO. Pass catcher round 2, Musgrave, good tight end class. If he's the 4th guy off the board, that speaks to how good this tight end class is this year, and he's a more dynamic weapon. And then you add him into Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs going into year 2. And this pass catching core around Love is starting to look pretty good. And yesterday I was talking about the Lions getting back in the first round, making a push, kind of putting their. I was trying to think of the most politically correct way of saying this without getting my channel demonetized, but putting their manlyhood, so to speak, on the table and saying, hey, the NFC North is ours. I don't know, with Dobbs, Watson, if they get better, Musgrave, if Jordan Love looks as good as he did in the 4th quarter against Philadelphia, maybe it is still Green Bay's division. We'd have to wait and see, but Musgrave certainly makes that case easier to make versus going elsewhere here in the 2nd round. Then we get to Carolina after they traded back at 46, and I'm going to give them the kind of perfect edge rusher for what I think they could still stand to add. Keon White, great run defender, which is exactly kind of what Brian Burns doesn't bring to the table. More the lighter, speedy, bend rusher type where his focus is getting to quarterbacks. Keon White right now is much better as a run defender and stopping inside zones and shedding blocks in that perspective versus being a complete pass rusher and a guy you can expect double-digit sacks from right away. He has taken steps in the right direction as a pass rusher. Guy who's new to the position in general, tight end, moved to edge. ODU transferred to Georgia Tech, 7.5 sacks last year, so it feels like he's making headway there, but it's unpolished. It's unrefined potential there, certainly as a pass rusher, kind of like Myles Murphy and some of the other guys this year, where you got to teach this guy a full moveset. You got to teach him how to play chess with an offensive lineman too, but that run-stopping ability right away gets him a spot on the field, and he serves as a really nice compliment to Burns because he's 6'5", 280 pounds, plays with that mass, you feel it, and he's a really good run defender. So I think that creates a really solid edge duo of the future for Carolina. Next, Washington at 47. I'm going to give him Steve Avila. I think they would prefer Cody Mock or one of these, mauling guards to replace Andrew Norwell. Avila is much more of a pass protection, focused interior offensive lineman in my books, but nonetheless, you can't get greedy here. Get an Andrew Norwell replacement, get younger, get cheaper at the position, and just get better at the position. An argument could be made that Avila could be that right away. So, love that addition there at left guard. We go corner, we go offensive line. I think that's kind of the 2-round roadmap I'd put together for the Commanders. Then we get to the Minnesota Vikings. These 2 second-round picks come in that trade with the Lions in yesterday's video. And here we go. Hendon Hooker. I mean, he could go in the first round. We've now seen even more mocks where Hendon Hooker's going to Minnesota at 23. Never say never. But here, the Vikings get him at 48. He'll sit for a year. Kirk Cousins plays out the last year of his contract. And then the reins get handed over to Hendon Hooker. And I think minimum, he could be this top 32-ish solid starter. And a guy that, on his rookie contract, is great for your roster. You'll have to think about paying him $40 million, but he's a good processor, strong arm, throws great over the middle of the field, can see over the line of scrimmage, does a lot of things right, sneaky athletic as well. A lot to be excited about. And for the 4 years you have control of him and he's making next to no money, awesome. That's fantastic. It's a great addition to that offense and allows you to spend money elsewhere. But then it's that second contract where you get a little bit of murky waters and maybe you're retreading into the Kirk Cousins territory all over again. But man, this would be a really, really solid value pick here for Minnesota. And then we get to Pittsburgh at 49. And again, I hate repeating picks, but Jack Campbell, maybe it's because he wears black and yellow at Iowa, but it feels like he's destined to wear the black and gold in Pittsburgh. I mean, one of the few, arguably the only linebacker really with those prototypical linebacker of old, height and weight parameters, 6'4", 6'4.5", 245-ish pounds. But 60-something percentile 40, 96 percentile 3-cone. That, and you see it on tape. This guy reads, reacts, finds the football, finds the ball carrier and breaks, and he's a sure tackler at that. And I also think because of, more athleticism than what we thought. He's not going to be as big of a coverage liability as maybe we would have assumed, 2, 3, 4 months ago when talking about Jack Campbell. So big time upgrade for Pittsburgh over Leighton Roberts, who's also old and slow. So you get cheaper, not really cheaper because Roberts isn't really making much of any money really against the cap, but you get younger at the position. You could definitely make an argument you actually get more athletic, which, again, I don't know how many people would have been saying that about Jack Campbell a couple months ago. But you get younger, you get more athletic, and you kind of reset. And then him and Cole Holcomb, I think that could be a really solid 1-2 punch there in the middle of that Pittsburgh defense. Next is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to give him Will McDonald. He fell quite a bit here. I've had him go, late 1, and I've talked about, I could see him going as high as 19. Maybe to Tampa Bay. I don't think that's impossible. But here he falls all the way to the second round going to Tampa Bay. So really solid value there, and he could be your Shaq Barrett replacement in the future, but also a three-headed pass rush of Barrett, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who I'm excited to see what he looks like in year 3, and then Will McDonald. That is a nasty pass rush. And then we're going to address corner in tomorrow's video, just kind of filling in the few holes I think this team kind of has. They also brought in Ryan Neal, so I thought about safety at points, and I've done mocks with with safety being in play. But with Ryan Neal adding in, I think we can kind of pass on that. We'll go slot corner tomorrow. We add to that edge group now and get younger, and again, open up the door as a Shaq Barrett replacement with Will McDonald. At 51, let's go Matthew Bergeron. I think this is actually a solid spot for him to go, and we're starting to see him become more of the round 2 tackle versus some of the round 3 guys. And you could go tight end here, but with 4 already off the board, could go Kraft here, could go Laporta. Don't hate that whatsoever, but I also think we can address that in tomorrow's video. And also, I've gone tight end off the tackle a ton for Miami, so let me vary it as much as I possibly can here. Bergeron, really good on the move, really good run blocker, plays with good power, kind of a ideal fit for that zone blocking scheme. Get out and pave the way for the likes of Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. And you play him at right tackle, and as long as Teron Armstead's healthy, that offensive line overhaul that's the span of the last couple of years feels like it's complete. Then we get to Arizona at 52. This pick comes virtue of the Seattle trade. Yesterday's video, they moved from 3 to 5, pick up pick 52, and we're going to give them Joe Tippmann. They definitely need another interior offensive lineman, and Tippmann catching a lot of first-round buzz now. And honestly, John Michael Schmitz goes 20. I don't rule out that Tippmann's the pick at 25 for the Giants, just saying, hey, this is the guy we need to finish the offensive line overhaul, kind of like what we were talking about with Miami. It's been 3 years in the making. Let's finish it here and now. I can see that. But here, Arizona, they need guard, they need center, left guard in specific, they need center. Here, Tippmann's going to fill that center role for us. 6'6", but might be the best moving center in this class, which is a huge luxury to have. And yeah, obviously addressing a huge area of need for Arizona. And you get this pick from Seattle. So it's weird to see those interdivision trades. And we also did that with Minnesota and Detroit. So how likely is it in TBD? But nevertheless, yeah, patching up and getting that extra pick. I think that's why Arizona, I think, is trying to field as many calls as possible, trying to move down from 3 so they can patch up the holes that are on that roster. Then we get Chicago at 53. Let's go Tuli Tuipulotu. I always forget he's in this defensive line category for whatever reason. 266 pounds. He is playing edge at the NFL level, and he sheds block at a really, really high level. Maybe could do a little bit better as a finisher, but like I say with wide receivers, getting open is the harder skill versus making the catch. Drops can be an issue, but if you can get open, I think we can polish up the rest. Getting off of blocks, beating the dude across from you, I think is the harder skill set versus, just tackling the quarterback. I think that can come with some time and with some coaching. And I also think he always falls way too far down my mock drafts, maybe because he's in that D-line category and I just forget about him. But he's going to go somewhere in the second round if I had to bet. And Chicago needs more edge rush help. So, you play him on that 4-man front, kick him on the edge, and trust his block shedding ability, and hope that, he learns to grow as a finisher, and let's generate some additional pass rush that the Bears defense desperately needs right now. 54, let's give Jalin Hyatt to the LA Chargers. So Hyatt falls a little bit, and that's going to be a little bit of a theme and something more we talk about in tomorrow's video with Josh Downs falling and Tank Dell even falling a little bit. Despite how much I like those guys, I wanted to play out a situation where all these lighter, more slight-built wide receivers fall a little bit. And I've had Hyatt go in the 40s. I've had him go in the first round in some early mocks. But here he falls all the way outside the top 50. And is the exact speed wide receiver that the Chargers are looking to add. Noted this in yesterday's video. Josh Palmer, 4.5. Mike Williams, for all intents and purposes, is a 4.5 guy. And Keenan Allen ran 4.7 at the combine. I actually think he was faster than that in his prime, but maybe now he's in that low 4.6, high 4.7 territory. So this team needs speed. And Hyatt was disappointed running 4.4 flat, which just speaks to how fast this guy actually is, right? And I mean, ask Alabama about how quick and how much of a burner Hyatt is. So if he literally only runs those go routes, that basically all he ran at Tennessee were those go routes, I think he's opened up that offense because he's going to push safeties further and further away from the line of scrimmage. He's going to open up the middle of the field for Josh Palmer to do more, for Keenan Allen to do more, for Dalton Kincaid, who he took in the first round, to do more. So it makes the offense better, wholesome. But also, if he just can hopefully be the final factor to get Justin Herbert to take advantage of how much of a howitzer of an arm he has, that's a huge win. And you can't put a price point on Herbert fully trying to maximize what his skill set is and starting to flip the field a lot more. So we'd love to see this Hyatt addition and 2 moves to boost the environment around Justin Herbert. Is it clear enough yet what I'm trying to focus on here going into year 4 of Justin Herbert with the Chargers? Hopefully it's a pretty clear picture. Then we get Minnesota back on the clock here at 55. And I'm going to give Julius Brents. They can then add one more corner. And Brents, comfortability at K-State playing both man and zone. Flores, Myron Murphy's more of a zone fit to me, so I'm interested to see what Flores is going to do with his defense this year, but whatever it is, I think Julius Brent fits into it, and he's also 6'3", running a sub-Devils 3-cone at 6.63. That's alien stuff. So, 5 years of college football experience, you feel like you can play this guy pretty much right away, and I'm not crazy about a Caleb Evans, so Brents plus Byron Murphy, Andrew Booth Jr., that's a solid trio, and all of a sudden it goes from like the most glaring weakness Minnesota has to something where it's like, oh, actually they're okay. They're just fine. So yeah, okay, that secondary's in an okay spot. Plus they got Brian Flores, who from Ed Donatel to Brian Flores, there was no bigger defensive coordinator jump made by any team this year. So yeah, all of a sudden Minnesota's defense starting to look like a strength on top of what they already have and a really good offense. Then at 56, let's give the Jags Derek Hall. I think Hall should be a second rounder, and he's kind of the perfect Arden Key replacement. Plus Travon Walker, once you get into your nickel and your dime 4-man fronts, he can move inside. So I think you can have a trio of Josh Allen, Derek Hall, and Travon Walker all in the field at the same time. So I don't think that, I don't think this pick is taking playing time away from anybody else that you want to have on the field in those 3rd and long passing situations. But again, perfect Arden Key replacement, and we saw the impact Arden Key had on that defense last year. So add another speed finesse type, 6'3", right around 240 pounds, a little bit shorter arms than a Will McDonald. That's part of why I have them broken up a little bit, and a little bit weaker of a broad jump showing at the combine. But Hall is still a explosive athlete, can attack the outside shoulder with some of the best guys in this class in the edge group. And yeah, exactly what I said earlier. He's a perfect Arden Key replacement for Jacksonville. Then we get the Giants at 57. I'm going to give him Luke Weipler. So I've been saying I think these top 3 centers, Tippmann, John Michael Schmitz, and Weipler, are all off the board before 60. And I have that playing out here in the first round. And plus we have Avila off the board and Cody Mock off the board, who also have center flexibility. So yeah, I think these guys are going to fly, because after that, there's a relatively steep drop-off. So there's talks about the Giants wanting Tippmann or John Michael Schmitz at 25. Here we have them grab Luke Weipler in the second. And Weipler actually weighs a little bit more than John Michael Schmitz. So if you're worried about this because, he's a little bit of a smaller, lighter built center, well, he's actually a little bit heavier than John Michael Schmitz. So don't really worry about it. Also, really good on the move, and one of the best grading centers in college football over the last few years using PFF's data. So polished, multi-year starter, ready to go, good athlete, and I think the 300 pounds is not a concern here. So huge win, and the Giants plug in that center. Hopefully Ezeudu takes a step forward at left guard in year 2, and all of a sudden that offensive line is looking like a better part, one of the stronger parts of the roster in New York. Next, let's get to Dallas at 58, and I'm going to give him Drew Sanders. This kind of feels like drafting Micah Parsons all over again in the second round, but Parsons was way more polished as a player, in my opinion, than Sanders, because Sanders brings that blitzing upside with room to grow pretty heavily as a coverage player and as a run stopper. So definitely a little bit of a work in progress type here. But that type of an athlete next to Leighton Vander Esch, that's really appealing. And then to have him use as a blitzer, and then maybe just think about the headaches you could cause an offense with Micah Parsons, let's just say, dropping into coverage, and then Sanders blitz, when you think it's going to be the other way around. Like, you could play some real mean mind games with a defense that features both Drew Sanders and Micah Parsons. So that's what I want to do. I just want to give Dan Quinn all the toys that he can just put opposing offensive coordinators into a Rubik's Cube and just like jumble it up and just completely screw them up. So, it's not necessarily the most NFL ready, most polished guy right now. Maybe you could go Diane Henley for a little bit more coverage impact. But I wanted to play with the upside of Sanders here, and let's see a defense with Micah Parsons and Drew Sanders. That would be a whole lot of fun, right? Then at 59, this is where I'm going to have Diane Henley come off the board. You lose Tremaine Edmonds, who obviously has a little bit more size and bulk to him than Diane Henley, but you are drafting a guy who played 6 years of college football, made a jump from Nevada to Washington State, and is so rangy in coverage. He's PFF's number 1 off-ball linebacker. I got him as off-ball linebacker 3, but nevertheless, one of the guys that's ranking towards the top of a lot of different people's linebacker boards, and he plays instinctual. I think he's NFL ready. The downside is he'll be 24 in December, but here in the second round, you're not as worried about that, right? And again, you're adding that coverage ability back into the mix. And Matt Milano is great in coverage too, but gaining back some of the athleticism and the sideline-to-sideline speed that you lost with Tremaine Edmonds. And I will say Henley will get blocked out of plays, but he's such a good athlete that sometimes he just evades blocks too. Like, and he gets to a spot before a guard, or he's too much for an interior offensive lineman to keep up with. And sometimes he just shoots gaps, and he's a sure tackler. So once he's in the backfield, play's done. So I still don't think he's a total liability in the run game, but you know, if guards get to the second level and there's Henley, yeah, he'll struggle there. That's the one downside about this type of pick. Him and Milano could create a little bit of a light box in Buffalo. Then we get to Cincy at pick 60. Let's give him DJ Turner here. I mean, apparently a all-time 3-cone, like 6 something, and then he runs 4.28 40, best 40 time of any of the corners. So yeah, twitched up athleticism, and he is much more like a Devon Witherspoon versus a Joey Porter Jr. where well, actually he has the straight line speed, so he has that as well, but where I talk about Devon Witherspoon, it's like, dude, his mirroring ability is the best in this class, and he's so agile, and he could break on a dime and get to his top speed in 2 steps. All that is true about DJ Turner as well. A little bit even smaller than I think Witherspoon is, and I think plays a little bit smaller and a little more frail, so I do worry about him getting bodied a little bit. But Chidobe Awuzie last year of his contract, Mike Hilton last year of his contract, could go safety here, but let's just say they're going to be comfortable with Nick Scott and be comfortable with Dax Hill taking over as the free safety. That's a safety tandem they can live with. Let's add some depth there on the outside. TJ Turner, freaky athlete, and I think comes with man zone scheme flexibility, which is key because Lou Anarumo mixes it up what feels like drive to drive in Cincinnati. Then we get Chicago at 61. I'm actually going to stick in the corner room and point out, I feel like an under-discussed need in Chicago. Number 2 corner. Like, I like Jalen Johnson, but who's that other guy that's Kendall Vildor? Is that what we want to do? I'm not so sure about it. And, it's primarily cover 2 for Matt Eberflus in that defense. And Tyreek Stevenson, a lot of these man press corners, I'm going to say this over and over and over again. Not only I think they're going to be great man press, but because of that cover 2, you're sitting in the line. You're basically going to sit at the line of scrimmage, but before that, pressing at the line. So if you're going to press man, you could press in cover 2. And then cover 4 is basically man coverage just off. So if you can play man, you can play cover 4. And then cover 6, the assignment for a corner, is essentially the same as quarters. So if you're good at man press, I'm going to tell you you're good at cover 2, 4, and 6 stuff. And that's Tyreek Stevenson. And that's primarily what you're going to see from Matt Eberflus and the Colts. A lot of cover 2, and then sprinkle in some of the cover 4, cover 6, and and some man. Tyreek Stevenson is a perfect addition. Him and Jalen Jones, if he can stay healthy, or Jalen Johnson, that's a really good, young, cheap 1-2 punch there on the outside. And then hopefully, improvement on the coverage side, improves the production, get out of your pass rush, and in turn that defense just takes a step forward in the Windy City. 2 more picks to get through. I'm going to give the Eagles Jamie Robinson here at 62. Could be a nickel corner contingency in case Avonte Maddox gets hurt because he has had injury issues. Also insurance if Reed Blankenship is kind of a, he looked good last year, but was that because he was kind of the third safety behind Epps and behind Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Maybe. We'll see what he looks like on a full-time starting level sample size. But if he isn't up to snuff, then you have Jamie Robinson waiting in the wings. And also like Terrell Edmonds. This is coming from a Steelers fan. I have not been a very big fan of Terrell Edmonds. I don't really think he's all that great. And it's a super cheap contract with a low guarantee anyway. So not like he's absolutely a must-have on the field because of the money you're paying him. So whether it's free safety because Reed Blankenship maybe isn't it, strong safety because maybe Terrell Edmonds isn't it, or slot because Avonte Maddox gets hurt or hits a wall, Jamie Robinson can work his way on the field. So long story short, very flexible safety, pretty even snap count alignment between free, strong, and nickel. Not much you can't do with Jamie Robinson. He's one of my guys in this year's class, and I think he should go round 2. And here I actually have him going off the board before Sidney Brown, which is a little surprising to me, but would be an awesome addition there and some additional depth there in the secondary in Philadelphia. Last pick to talk about, Isaiah Foskey going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they brought in Charles Omenihu, but Charles Omenihu, Isaiah Foskey, George Karlaftis, that is an awesome trio. And maybe I'd prefer a speed rusher here, so maybe Byron Young. And, in hindsight, I was putting this together just before some of the top 30 visits were announced, and Byron Young's got like a handful, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he's going earlier than I thought, right? But maybe Byron Young to give you a little bit more speed and explosiveness versus like 6'4", 260 Foskey, Amenihu who's kind of the same thing, and Karlaftis who's kind of the same build, and they all kind of play with the same skill set ish. No one with that explosive first step get off. So maybe I'm leaving a little bit of meat on the bone there. But as this is the final pick, I'll scroll across the top. But finish my point on Foskey, where he lacks like insane high end athleticism or unbelievable brute strength like a Tyree Wilson with long arms to go with it. He is just solid B kind of level player across the board, but knows how to be a pass rusher, understands his skill set, and has a full repertoire of moves, and knows how to play chess with an offensive lineman, knows how to stack one move off of another. So I think the Chiefs are getting an NFL ready pass rusher and a guy who could start right away, which in their case is still very, very valuable. So not a speed rusher in hindsight. Maybe I would change that up, but you are getting an NFL-ready pass rusher and gives you a really good trio of Karlaftis, Amenihu, and Foskey. But that is going to do it for the round 2 video. I've scrolled across the top. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who went too high? Who went too low? Who can you not believe is still available on the board as we get going into the round 3 video? Let me hear your thoughts. Also, let me hear your favorite team and if you liked or hated the picks and why you liked, hated, or somewhere in between there on those selections. Let me hear your thoughts down below. But hopefully you all enjoyed. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe if you're new, and be sure to come back tomorrow for the round 3 video. But until then, my name is Teach, and I am signing off.